I sincerely apologize. Go ahead and just give it a minute here to wait until somebody decides to go ahead and join. All right, I see we got one person in here. All right, never mind. Okay. For anybody that decides to join, I am so sorry. I was having technical difficulties. I was streaming from like a software, OBS, and that was giving me so much connectivity problems. Now I'm doing it from the webcam, and looks like it's running like 100 times better than the streaming software. So I'm happy about that. I just want to give a little bit of time before I go ahead and go into today's topic. Hey, Kaylee, how are you doing today? I'm glad to hear that you're doing good, Haley. I'm not doing too bad. My day was, productive, I would say. I'm a little embarrassed because I was having issues with my YouTube streaming live, but hopefully I got that figured out now. I'm also inviting people from my TikTok here over to my YouTube channel if anybody is interested. From there, I'm going to be doing a talk about how to stop worrying about your autistic child, and I think that would be really super beneficial for parents. And if anybody wants to chime in or ask questions, they can do so on my live stream on my YouTube channel. Hi, Pakistan 1M0M. Hi, Monica. I think it's working this time. I am so sorry about that. I was streaming from when I tried to do this live, I was trying to stream from a software, and that was creating connectivity problems. But now I see YouTube is giving me the option to stream from my webcam, and looks like it's working 100 times better now. Hi, Jackie from Sussex, UK. So I appreciate everybody who's bearing with me. So I guess I will go ahead and get started here. So, how to stop worrying about your autistic child. So, when a parent conceives a child, they have this perfect future all planned out for their child. They're probably going to say to themselves, my baby is going to make a lot of friends, or my baby is going to be a straight A student, or my baby is going to be like, the team captain, valedictorian, or my baby is going to be a millionaire. Maybe not to that complete context, but you get the gist of it. When a parent conceives a child, they're just having this very big, huge future all planned out for their child as it is growing. And as a parent, you want the best for your child, and you're willing to do absolutely anything to ensure that they are safe and growing naturally. Now, when your child is born, it's beautiful, it's perfect. Months later, you begin to suspect something's different about your child. You don't know what it is, but for some strange reason, you notice that maybe the child's routine is kind of slightly different, or he doesn't respond to normally the way he used to. So over time, as that continues, you think it's probably best to seek out intervention, find out what is going on. So most parents usually go to their doctor first, who will then probably refer them to like a psychologist or an educator. Then here comes the big heartbreaker. Your child is autistic. Okay? That's the diagnosis that parents get about their child. But it's not just the label that hurts the parents. It's the lack of support that they're getting. See, when a parent gets like a diagnosis for their child, instead of getting the support and encouragement you need, you actually get the opposite, and you feel stabbed in the back and betrayed by a group of people that you sought help from. And when that help happens, you are emotionally conflicted, and you just can't help but worry for your child's future. So during this stream, I'm going to be covering things on how to help parents reduce their worries over their autistic child's future. And if anybody just has questions, please feel free to chime in. We are working on my son being able to play with kids, and I keep telling him to walk to the kids. Oh, good for him. Is he picking up on any of those social cues? And say, can I play with you? But today he said friends always say no. Well, I'm sorry that's happening to him. I can imagine that would be very heartbreaking. I'm glad that you're at least trying, to encourage your son to be more outgoing and make new friends and socialize. But it's usually just one day at a time. Hey, Mackenzie newbie, I'm good, thank you. I got some people streaming from my TikTok. I want to make sure, everybody who follows me at least, gets a chance to hear this. Many autistic children can isolate themselves. That is absolutely true, and I am one of those kids because I often prefer to be by myself because I did not know how to be outgoing. I didn't know how to connect with others. And it was just, it was a tough thing for me to kind of handle, I would say. And so that's why I prefer to keep to myself. So, all right, now that I got more people join in, let's go ahead and start with number one, the first tip about how to reduce your worries over your child's future. So number one, what is worrying? Worrying is not trusting that everything is going to be okay. Now, it's okay to worry about certain things to like a certain degree, but just as long as you're handling the situation and not wasting time being stuck in a loop of fear. Now, some of you who follow me on TikTok, or go to my TikTok lives, I like to play Christian music in the background. And so Christian rock artist Zach Williams, he has a song called Fear is a Liar. So when you start worrying, why are you believing that everything is not going to be okay? Why are you listening to all the thoughts telling you that you cannot raise your autistic child or that your autistic child will just never be good enough? And I understand completely that it's hard to shut out or ignore what a group of professionals said, even though they specialize in special needs. But can these people who diagnose your child predict the future? How well do they really know your child? How much time have they spent with your child compared to the amount of time you've spent with them? And is it fair of them to assume that your child will not grow and mature to a more evolved person than what they first see? Now, yes, it's absolutely true that there are patients that doctors have diagnosed with cancer and have a certain amount of time left to live. But autism isn't a four-letter word for good reason. Autism isn't static, and neither is your child. There are even patients who have survived cancer. And yes, your child is going to run into many barriers due to having autism. But at the same time, who doesn't run into barriers? And yes, your autistic child may function differently than most typical people do. But you wouldn't want your child with his or her own unique gifts to be completely changed just so that they fit in a mold that is more similar to others. With autism, there is no one size fits all. There is no such thing as one autistic person that is completely the same. So that's why parents cannot take a label as the end of the world. That's right, Haley. Yes, I do have so many friends, you guys, and I appreciate that so much. See, J. Rog said, fear is a defense mechanism. Irrational fear is where the issues come into play. That's a good point. I do think that fear is a good defense mechanism because, yes, you are putting your guard up and defending yourself, but when you're not trusting that everything is going to be all right, what is there to do to help counteract that feeling? I needed to hear you today. I'm starting on this journey with my 6-year-old. Well, congratulations, Jamie. I'm so happy for you and your 6-year-old son. And thank you so much for coming on here. Why, hello, Julia. So I'm going to move on to the second part about how to stop worrying for your autistic child. So number 2, ask yourself, where does worrying get you? Now, see, my biggest problem with worrying is that I'm looking too far ahead into the future and trying to be prepared for the worst possible outcome or planning on how to avoid it. It's just like what one of my followers said, that fear can be a defense mechanism. Now, oftentimes, I tend to think myself that if God sees my worries and my struggles, he will be persuaded into using his power to help me in that situation. And of course, my version of being helped may be completely different than his. So, with all that worrying built up, how is it working out for you? Is it helping? Are you taking action to remedy the problem, or are you magnifying the problem? Oftentimes, people are so overcome with worrying that they end up doing something that they're going to regret. So it's important to remember that worrying doesn't add value to the situation, nor does it decrease value. And there's this documentary that I saw on Netflix. It's called The Secret. For anybody who believes in the law of attraction, you're most likely to attract more problems if you set your mind to worrying. Let me grab a drink of water real quick. Nowhere. I used to cry myself to sleep. Now I'm a lioness. I do the best to take my son into the next level. Good for you, sheer hater. Yeah, way to develop into that mama bear persona. Don't let anybody mess with your kiddo, and don't let anybody tell you that your kiddo cannot be amazing. Oh, thank you so much for the gift. Thank you, the Soma Green, for the cookie. I didn't know I was autistic till this year, and I'm 30. My mom didn't want to believe I was autistic. Oh, so you got a late diagnosis as an adult. You say your mom didn't want to believe you were autistic. Is it because you're high functioning, or is it because you mask it so well? A friend of mine who was actually in my special ed cohort during grad school, she told me this year that she has autism as well and that she was diagnosed. And I didn't want to believe her either because I feel like she is so much more well spoken than I am and so much smarter and experienced than I am. All right, so moving on to number 3 of how to stop worrying for your autistic child. Number 3 is have faith. Now, what is faith? Faith is trusting that everything is going to be all right when there is no evidence showing that. If you don't see the results you want at a specific moment, don't give up faith. Now, in the book of the Old Testament, Joseph spent 13 years in prison and slavery, and he was an innocent victim. Now, he could have given up hope after waiting for so long. I mean, 13 years is just a long time, but Joseph kept his head high and he trusted in God that everything was going to be okay. And God did have amazing plans for him. And also, for anybody who has seen the movie The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith plays the American businessman Chris Gardner, who struggled with homelessness while raising his son. And eventually, Chris Gardner came to be a billionaire. And there's also another Christian song that I'm very fond of. It's called I'm Gonna See a Victory. It's by Elevator Worship. There's a verse in that song that says, "You take what the enemy meant for evil and you turn it for good." Every time something awful happens to me, whether it's my fault or someone else's fault, I think of that psalm verse and I know that things are going to work out. Not my way, but God's way. So remember that your autistic child is not an accident by God and that He has great plans for your child. My favorite story to tell my son is the story of Moses. That is a good one because Moses is a hero. You're amazing. Thank you for educating people, myself included. Oh, well, thank you, girl in the moon. I appreciate that so much. Thank you. All right, so now moving on to number 4 of how to stop worrying for your autistic child. Number 4, you need to ask yourself, what is the worst case scenario? Okay? What's the worst that could happen when your child is autistic? There's like so many there's so many things that could happen to your child due to having autism. Your child could be bullied in school by peers, or he may be mistreated by teachers. He may never graduate from school. He may never be able to get a job or hold a job, and he may never be independent. So, what if any of those outcomes do happen to your child? What can you do about it? I love that you use scripture. Faith is a beautiful thing. Absolutely, Haley. Yes. There was a time when God did not matter much to me too, and I tend to avoid faith or scriptures, but after going to Celebrate Recovery for several years and going to church, it's really opened up my eyes. So what if the worst case scenario does happen to your autistic child? What can you do about it? Well, you'll have to cross that bridge when you get to it, which is what my mom would always tell me when I asked for things, and I hated it. But until you reach that bridge, what's the point of dwelling on those thoughts? Is it because you're in a hurry to get that? Is it because you're in a hurry to get to that moment so you can take care of it and be done with it? Or do you feel like there is no point to having a fun or a good day because the worst case scenario is going to happen and take away your joy? There's often times when I do feel that, when I have this thought in my head about something bad that's going to happen, I just tend to think to myself, well, there's no point in having a fun or good day because it's not going to really matter since this bad thing is going to happen to me. But you also have to understand that this is a choice. That's a choice that you're going to have to make. I have to go take my dog out, baby girl. Okay, well, yeah, definitely take care of your dog. But yes, if you're worried that something bad is going to happen and you think that there's no point to having a good day because of that bad thing about to happen, that's a choice that you're going to have to make. Did I miss the party? Diagnosis in 2012, news shortly after my break in 2008. Good to be with. Well, nice to meet you, WDB Sir Locksite. Some of these usernames are a bit hard to understand. Well, I was just getting into part 4 about how to stop worrying for your autistic child, and that's where you ask yourself, what's the worst case scenario? So, do you want a stressful incident that hasn't happened yet or not guaranteed to happen to like rob you of your joy? So just tell yourself, if that happens, you'll figure it out and it will all work out. You may not know how it's going to work out or when it will work out, but you need to remind yourself that it will. I decided I want to enjoy my 4-year-old and not worry about him. I'm doing everything I can and I want to trust the process. I'm so proud of you, Elle. Good for you. That's awesome. It could be beaten by a cop that doesn't understand disabilities. Well, there's actually a blog that I published to my website where I talk about like autism and the police. And there's a card that I made that you can download for an autistic individual to carry with him. That way, if he encounters a police officer, he can show the officer that card and that will explain his disability. So, number 5 of how to stop worrying for your autistic child's future. Look into testimonies. Now, if you ever need inspiration or encouragement, I would very highly recommend that you look into some testimonies of people who have been in your shoes and have faced similar situations as you are currently facing. And you can take me, for instance. When I received my autism diagnosis at the age of 4, I was suspected to never graduate from school or be independent. And now I got a master's degree hanging up there on that wall. And I'm also educating people about the subject by coaching and making content for TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. You can also find some powerful testimonies on TED Talks. There's like so many there's so many speakers on TED Talks, with a variety of disabilities where they explain their backstory, how they came, where they are, and how they did that. Was I nonverbal at 4? I didn't learn how to properly speak until I was 6 years old. You can also listen to Christian testimonies as well. And you wouldn't believe the stories I've heard from Celebrate Recovery where people hit way beyond rock bottom, but they rose up and they're doing amazing. And if that's not enough to convince you that there is a powerful God that has the best interest in you, then yeah, you might as well just exit. Might as well just leave this stream. Did you stem? Yes, I did stem him. In fact, I still stem. Nowadays, when I'm sitting, you'll see me shaking my leg up and down, or I'll probably be picking at my callus here on my finger or biting at it. Sometimes I'll probably fidget with things. So, number 6 of how to stop worrying for your autistic child's future is give up control. One of my favorite prayers, the Serenity Prayers, it opens with, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And then it proceeds with living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace. So, you cannot control what has not happened yet. And you cannot control what already has happened. So, whose fault is it that your child has autism? Was it inherited from you or the other parent? Was it caused by the vaccines? You don't know. Nobody knows. Could you have prevented it? The only way I know for sure on how you could have prevented it is never conceiving a child in the first place. But there is no way that you could have predicted your unborn child having autism. Did God make your child autistic? I can't answer that. I only know that good things come from God. Did he create your child? Absolutely. Did he create your child for good things? Absolutely. Did he make your child autistic? I don't know. What I do know is that there is nothing God cannot use to his full glory. So it's not going to do you any good to spend time wondering what caused your child to be autistic. Did I go to a special need kindergarten? I did not, no. I was actually homeschooled from 4th to 10th grade, but when I was public schooled, there wasn't a lot of knowledge in special education. Oh, thank you for the cake and ice cream. Did I do ABA therapy? My mother did say that I did do ABA therapy, but I don't remember much of it because I was really young when it was done on me. But she did say that ABA therapy was really helpful on me. You're an amazing good sir. Have a wonderful day and keep going on. Well, thank you so much, Kat or Kate. Hello from Europe. Nice to meet you. So, I talked about, giving up control about the past, but there is also the future. Can you change the fact that your child has autism? It's never been confirmed that there is a cure for autism, but I'm 32 years old and I still have struggles due to my autism, and I don't think that I can change them. I can learn and I can improve, but it's not going to do me any good to play out scenarios in my head and come up with a solution ahead of time. So you need to take a break from dwelling on what you could have done to prevent what happened or preventing what you think will happen and focus on the present. My daughter is in it 5 days a week, 3 hours a day, and it's really helped her. Well, I'm really glad to hear that. My son has been a blessing in my life. The world seeing his perspective is amazing. Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. That was so healing for me. Love you, William. Thank you, Monica, so much. I love you guys too. Oh, hey, Kyle. All right, so number 7 on how to stop worrying for your autistic child's future, self-care. And this is something that I cannot stress enough about. You have to take care of yourself. You're not going to be able to help your child if you can't help yourself. Plus, if the worst case scenario is to happen, your child needs you to be strong physically and mentally to be present and giving. And there are many forms of self-care like exercising, journaling, yoga, meditation, or reading, teas, essential oils, or warm baths. Just take care of your health for yours and your child's sake. I hear from a lot of people saying that they don't have time to work out or do other activities, but they have more than enough time to complain and worry. What really baffles me is that people don't have the time to take care of themselves, but they have time to degrade themselves. Some people will say that they lack the motivation they need. But you know what? There's going to be many instances where you won't have any motivation whatsoever. So you gotta make yourself do it. It's called discipline. So it's all about self-discipline and less about motivation. So please reject the excuses and accept the results. I told my stepdaddy and stepmommy, what did you tell them, Joy? Listening is amazing. You've got to the levels. Well, thank you, Heather. I continue to grow in the Lord, yet joy, unless, and it still indulges me, darn. Well, just because we are growing closer to God and growing in our faith doesn't mean that we're never going to not have bad days. Bad days are still going to happen on this earth. Okay, and then the last tip that I have about how to stop worrying for your autistic child's future is get support. Nobody was meant to be alone. Having a good network of friends or family that care about you can really help take a load off. It might be most helpful to talk to other parents who have had experiences in this field, and there's also nothing wrong with seeking out professional counseling. So, those are the 8 things that I had wrote down, the 8 steps about how to stop worrying for your autistic child's future. Was there anything that I missed that anybody wants me to go over? Hey, Demanta, I'm good, thanks. How are you? Sorry for my English. I left the U.S. at age 6. Oh, no worries. If anybody needs me to go over this topic again, in case they missed something, just let me know. Thank you for talking about this. Always reassuring to hear your advice. Oh, well, thank you, Al. I'm so glad to hear that this is reassuring for you. No, everything you said is true and understandable. Thank you, Sheer. I appreciate that. This gives me encouragement. Thank you. Oh, well, thank you, Ashley. I'm glad that this gives you hope and inspiration. Ugh. Now my mouth is a bit dry and tired from all that talking. Well, thank you for the rose. God bless you too. So, are there any questions that anybody has or anything that they want to comment on? I found your channel a few weeks ago and I love it. Well, thank you so much. I'm really glad that you love it, and I'm glad that it's helpful for you. So at age 3, did you say any words or nothing at all? Um, I can remember certain words that I did say when I was really young, but I think according to my mom, I wasn't speaking in complete sentences or making sense verbally. Nessa, where could we get the card that you mentioned in case we run into a police officer that isn't educated on autism? Okay, so there's my website, williamshapingautism.com. You go. Maybe I can go ahead and provide a link for that in the YouTube chat here. Just give me a minute while I pull that up. My daughter did not speak at age 3, only said cookie. Oh, that's cute, though. All right. So for anybody who is interested in the handout card, in case you run into a police officer that doesn't understand autism, there's a card that I made and I published it on my website. If you need the link for it, I pasted it into the YouTube chat field. No problem, Nessa. Thank you for asking about it. Your autism. Right on, Joy. What is the chance for a 4-year-old nonverbal to start talking? Everybody develops at a different rate than others. So if and when he's going to speak, there's no way that I can really determine that. But there is a video on my YouTube channel where I talk about how I went from nonverbal to verbal autistic, if anybody is interested in checking that out. Bought her a cookie and show her she star after saying, that's so cute. What is my opinion about ABA therapy? I don't really have a whole lot of thoughts about ABA therapy because I've never had it done on me before. I did do a little writing about it. Let me see if I can hold that up. So, there's probably some research about ABA therapy that I would have to do because I do get asked that question a lot about what my thoughts are about ABA therapy. But I don't remember it much because I was really young when my mom had it done on me. But she said that it was helpful when ABA therapy was done. And I'm hearing from a lot of people that ABA is abusive for kids. Now, if anybody follows Paige Lael on TikTok or on YouTube, she also has a video on her thoughts about ABA therapy, and she believes it to be very abusive. Now, I often try to give people the benefit of the doubt and assume that it either depends on the ABA therapist or the child in question or just the day in particular. I now know nowadays that you can't really trust many professionals, and it seems like they are more discouraging than helpful, which is why I myself prefer to work independently, which is why I have my own private coaching and why I'm making my own content. If you were to start your child on ABA therapy and you reach a point where it's getting worse, I would communicate to the ABA therapist and keep a log throughout sessions. Document what has happened. And if you notice any progress or struggles, if you're communicating with the ABA therapist and nothing is happening, then I would stop there and move on to a different venue. Those are my thoughts about, ABA therapy. Thank you so much for the link. Anytime, a Patreon. Have you had private occupational therapists and communication clinician? I believe I did, yes. There's a lot of therapy I had when I was a kid. I just don't remember because I was so young. Our therapist said for our Aspie son not to go to ABA therapy. Oh. Yeah, like I said, people have different thoughts about ABA therapy, and some of them are negative. Hey, Sarah. Glad you can make my live. What was your thesis when you were getting your master's? My thesis, I want to say that it was where I made a point about how kids with autism or people with autism need to be taught how to advocate for themselves. And the reason why I chose that topic is because as an autistic individual, I run in so many situations where I just don't know how to handle them. Like if I'm having an argument with a professional or like a superior, I would not know what to say in response to whatever they say to me or how to handle certain situations. So I think autistic kids and autistic individuals need to be made aware of certain situations that they're going to run into in the future and be taught how to handle them. You have given me encouragement for my Aspie son in his future. Thank you. Oh, well, I'm so happy to hear that, Mama Doolittle. Thank you so much. We not only need to learn how to advocate, but be able to come back to address it. That's true. If you were to give any advice to the younger you, what would it be? That all setbacks are learning experiences. Because a lot of people look at setbacks as the end of the world, and that's really not what it is. You can't just stop there. I'm surprised that there were no kindergarten in schools that helped children on the spectrum. I need time to process things. I need time to process things too. It's not, and a lot of people don't have the patience or willingness to give me the time I need to process things. Best advice ever regarding setbacks, keep moving forward. Exactly. All right. Well, we're about 45 minutes into this stream, so I'm going to go ahead and end this here. I want to thank everybody for coming out to this my live stream, hanging out, listening to the topic that I wanted to present, and for asking questions. And if anybody is interested in coaching with me or advice from me, the link to my website is in my bio, and feel free to check that out. And other than that, I hope everybody has a fantastic day.